So this is the first lesson of Foundations 30. We're talking today about simple interest and how to calculate interest. So explore, how much money was invested based on this table? So here we can see that the y-intercept is 1,000, so that's the original amount that was invested. After the first year, it's up to about $1,050, which means it increased by about $50 during that first year because of interest. Then you can have a look at these definitions. Pause the video here if you need to. Example 1. Mitchell invested $2,500 in a GIC at 2.5% simple interest paid annually with a term of 10 years. So we have a formula here, I equals PRT, where I stands for interest, P stands for principal, or the original amount that you invested. R is the rate of the interest, so this percentage, and percentage is always written as a decimal as you are going to do calculations with it. Time is years. So here we've got 2,500 times 0.025, which is 2.5%, times 10 years to get $625 is how much interest this would accumulate. So the future value is when you add on the interest plus the amount you originally invested. So here if you add those together, you'll get $3,125. So a formula that we have for figuring out future value, which is A, future value is your principal plus your interest, which is also P times rate times time. So how would an interest rate of 3.5% change the future value? Well, if we actually calculated this and put in 3.5% instead of 2.5%, we would get $3,375, which is an increase of $250 just for that 1% of rate change. So then example 2. We calculated if she had an investment for 4.5 years at 8% and it was every half year, we wanted to figure out how much she had. So we actually could make a chart to do this. You can put your year and half year because that's when she's looking at it, all the way to 4.5 years. And we figured out that the interest for every term is $600. So if you keep adding $600 on every half year, you'll get to her total, which is after 4.5 years. You could have also done this by just putting your interest formula and plugging in 4.5 years, 8%, and $15,000, and you'd get the exact same answer as we did here. So there's two different options. Note that interest rates are written as a percent for a time period. A given percent is assumed to be annual unless otherwise stated. So make sure that you know that it's annual, but here in this question it says every half year. So that's why you're doing it per half a year. Example 3. Shayna invested her summer earnings of $5,000 at 8% simple interest paid annually. She intends to use the money in a few years to take a holiday with her sister. How long will it take for the investment to grow to a future value of $8,000? So if her future value is $8,000, she originally invested $5,000. 5,000 times 0.8 times t will be her interest. So we need to solve for t, which is her time. You'll end up, when you go through the math, to get 7.5 years. But note, since she's doing this annually, it would actually be 8 years that she could take this out after. So her time, is 8 years, which would be $3,200 in interest. Now we did come up with another way last time where you could have actually used your interest formula. And what could have you put in for interest to also figure this out? So we could have used 3,000 for interest times your principal times your rate times your time, and this would have also given you 7.5 years. So then we want to figure out what is her rate of return. So her rate of return, we have $3,200 is how much extra she actually would have. So 3,200 divided by the amount she initially invested is going to give us 64%. So that would be her rate of return. That's a very, very high rate of return. So example 4, Colby invested $25,000 in a simple interest Canada savings bond that paid interest annually. The future value is $29,375 at the end of 5 years. What interest rate does it earn? So now we've got your principal, we've got your future value, we've got your time, and we need to figure out rate. So which formula are we going to use? Our interest formula or our future value formula? Our future value. So the formula is A equals P plus PRT. So we have A is 29,375. P is 25,000 plus another 25,000 times your rate times your time, which is 5 years. So we need R by itself. What's the first thing we can do? Want R by itself? Good, we're going to subtract the 25,000 to the other side. I'm just going to finish this down here. And we get 4,375 equals 25,000 times R times 5. So now what's our next step? Multiply 25,000 times 5, and we're going to divide that to the other side. So we're going to divide by 25,000 times 5. And you should get then an interest rate of 0.035, which is 3.5%. So Colby decided though to cash the bond after 4.5 years for a down payment for a house. How much money did he have for the down payment? So now we're going to figure this out again. We're going to figure out our future value. If his principal is still 25,000, his rate though is 3.5% because we already figured that out. It's written as a decimal. And the time now is 4.5 years because that's when he took it out after. So we multiply this all together, add it to 25,000, and what is his future value? Okay, and this is the answer you should get when you put it all together. Then you just have an assignment today, page 14, number 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 10, 13, and I want you to also give 14 a try.